Thank you, Taina. I have to say that I was really, actually, when I first time heard about the Leadership Day or saw the pre-registration in internet, I was like, wow, this is great, this is amazing. We're doing this in games in Finland because there hasn't been anything like this before, and I was like, I have to be there, not on the like, here showing anything, but just to listen to what people are saying, what people are thinking about, what's the status of leadership in games at the moment. And of course I was like super excited and really happy when Taina contacted me and asked me to speak here. And well, I have my clicker here. As Taina already mentioned, well, I didn't do my whole career in games. I've been working in Tampere University of Technology before, and also in the finance industry, but 7 years now in game development, but my whole career working with supporting leaders in people and organizational development topics. I fairly recently also trained myself to be a coach, and that's why I wanted to share some of the learnings from the brain-based coaching that have at least helped me to understand better about leadership and how people are impacted by how our brain works. And then this summer, I found a new hobby to test my own courage and vulnerability, sailing. I have to say that it's been an exciting journey as well. Good analogs with things that I will be speaking about. But yeah, I have to tell you that I was really happy to come here, and quite quickly I decided on what's the topic that I want to talk about. It had resonated with me for some time already. Then when I kind of submitted the abstract, and then I was like, started agonizing, like, why did I choose such a difficult topic? That this is. How can you even make a presentation about courage and vulnerability? It's something that's really personal, and what can I do with this? But then I thought about it, and this is an important topic, and for my career in leadership development and supporting leaders, I think this is something that comes up regularly, and there are huge amounts of leadership development programs. You can develop your leadership skills in so many ways, but I feel that courage and vulnerability are something that it's not always so easy to talk about, and we have a lot of myths there that need to be busted, and yeah, I feel that it's an important topic. What I was thinking of talking about is first the link between leadership, courage, and vulnerability, then a little bit about the brain, then something about growth mindset and psychological safety. And I was hoping to maybe have the opportunity to have a little bit of discussion and to hear your thoughts on the topics. I'm not sure how to make it happen with such a big bunch of people. By the way, thank you all for attending. It's a bit scary. But let's see. You can at least post the comments, but feel free to ask any questions at any point. I like to interact with people. I think collaborative learning works the best for me, at least. So, but yeah, then about the topic. I kind of had a little bit of the same approach than Willem in the beginning, that when I think about, my topic, courage and vulnerability. So if I want to be credible, I have to know, what does it mean? What did I do? Well, I went to Google, of course. So courage, but what Wikipedia says about it, is the choice and willingness to confront agony, pain, danger, uncertainty, or intimidation. Okay, those are big words. We don't associate those with leadership work on a daily basis, but that's what it is. And then on the other hand, vulnerability is the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally, says Oxford Dictionary. So, does anyone see a connection here? Can I see hands? Yeah, okay. Because that's definitely something that I was thinking about. When I was thinking about courage and vulnerability, for me, it felt that there is really, really a strong link there, that to be courageous. How can you be courageous if you're not afraid of something? It's not courage if there's nothing to be afraid of. So definitely linking this strongly. And what I wanted to also do was to ask a few questions from my colleagues at work. What do they associate with leadership, courage, and vulnerability? And I got quite different answers. I got one answer that, or we had a discussion where this, I would say, that really appreciated expert, I sat down with him and he was like, that's a good question. I need to think about it. He thought about it for like maybe 3 minutes, and I was like, and then he was like, yes, I'm ready to answer. And see, he said that, I think vulnerability and leadership are that you're being honest and direct, that you are not faking it, but you are being authentic. So that's something that already was mentioned in the other speeches as well. So authenticity, that's something that courage and vulnerability both have in common. Other answer that I got was that when thinking about leadership and vulnerability, you are failing at your job if as a leader you're showing vulnerability. So with the first answer, I was like, okay, this is clear. There's no need for a talk because it's clear for everyone. And then on the other hand, hearing about how people feel that showing vulnerability is failing at your job as a leader, I thought that maybe this is still a topic that we need to talk about. I found this picture in the internet. It's by Michael Sahota. I was really inspired. Who has watched the TED Talk from Brené Brown about the power of vulnerability? Can I see hands? I think it's really, really inspiring. So there comes the quote from vulnerability is the birthplace of creativity, innovation, and change. And Michael Sahota has kind of like drawn his own picture about it, that what does vulnerability consist of. And first of all, there's the authenticity to be who we are. And I think that's really, really kind of the key to the whole topic. I think authenticity starts with strong self-awareness. Knowing your values, your beliefs, your morals, who you are. There are many ways of growing your self-awareness. For example, what we did a few years ago in a leadership development program at Redlinks that I initiated, we started the whole program with a full day on self-awareness. So all of the managers participating, and all of the managers were participating, they got to do this personality test, or a kind of like what is your communicational style test. And I was afraid. I was like, okay, we have a room full of highly technical, well, mostly highly technical people, and are they going to be thinking that this is like new age shit and what's going on here? And I was like, I'm gonna do it anyway. And then it was such a delight to see even the most people who many times are really vocal about criticizing many kinds of things, how you could see how when they were looking at their results, and then we were sharing it with a person next to ourselves, and they were so fascinated and really enjoyed the discussions, and that started the whole process of the leadership development program in a really nice way of building trust, because people were able to share things about themselves, first discover things about themselves, and then share things about themselves, quite personal things as well. So that was something that they really appreciated, and it set the really good tone for the whole leadership development program. Then about courage to be imperfect. I've recently started to do a bit of consulting on the side of my normal job as a head of organizational development at Redlinks, and I'm helping out this startup. And we were having a discussion with their leadership about what is the situation in their organization at the moment. And quite soon we got into this discussion about, well, they told me that, well, we don't really have a formal education as managers. Actually, we don't have any training as managers. And I asked them that, okay, do you see it as a problem? And then they were like, oh, well, sometimes, maybe, yeah. And then came the question that, what if people think that we don't know what we're doing? And I think that is one question that is really doing the harm in not letting us be vulnerable. As a leader, you don't always have to know what you're doing. And one thing that the person that I was talking to at the office and asking about what is the association with leadership, courage, and vulnerability, one thing that he mentioned and what is true is that people see if you are fake. Our brain is really keen on detecting errors, so I bet it's better to be authentic because it's not really useful to try to fake it. Being honest, being who you are is something that helps people trust you. Compassion, to be kind to ourselves and others. That's, of course, really, really important. Sophie was talking about trust. Trust is something that is highly linked with vulnerability. There needs to be, of course, certain amount of trust to be able to be vulnerable or to want to be vulnerable. But there's also the question of which comes first. So some scientists say that actually being vulnerable comes first, then people start trusting you. When you open up a bit, then the trust starts to develop. And of course, with vulnerability, there are also boundaries. You don't, when you first meet a people, of course that can happen as well, but usually when you first meet a people, you don't pour out all of your childhood traumas and things like that, but you start building it bit by bit. And I think this is really, really much linked also to our culture of, or what we want to, or what we have been talking about quite a lot is the failing fast culture that we all want to build in the games industry. But you need vulnerability to be able, if you take risks, you will naturally be vulnerable. So you need to have a culture where vulnerability is okay, so that you will actually be able to take risks and fail fast. Then, what about the brain? Well, I'm not a neuroscientist, you know that, but I want to share some of the key learnings that I've learned and what I think can be helpful in understanding how can you create the conditions for vulnerability and courage. So, our brain's most important job is to keep us alive. It still is. And it works in a way, even though the dangers and threats have changed quite a lot from the past, but this is how it works. So our brain is constantly looking for cues of threat because it's a life-saving instinct for us. And what is, well, it has been, of course, quite useful for us to be more sensitive to threats and danger than to rewards. So rewards are things like being happy, having connection with other people and things like that, and threat is like stress and anxiety and things like that, feelings that we connect with these. So to be able to build a culture of creativity, we should have people as much in the toward state as possible. We tend to go to the away state many times because of our brain, and it has an effect in perception, cognition, creativity, and collaboration. So when we feel, and it doesn't even need to be a real threat, it can be a perceived threat because that's how our brain functions. And even like if you're being rejected, that your brain processes it in the same way that you're having actually physical pain. So when you are in the away state, your perception goes narrower. You lose some of your problem-solving skills. You're not as creative as you could be. You don't collaborate, and that's of course totally fine and makes sense if you have a lion running after you. So then you need to use all of your energy to running and focusing on staying alive. But also, when we are trying to build culture of creativity, how to enhance that is to, as leaders, to try to keep people as much, or enable the toward state as much as possible. Something that I wanted to share with you is David Rock's model of SCARF that can be quite useful to understand yourself and also other people. So these social cues that we look for in every situation, because brain actually processes workplace as primarily as a social network. So that is how it works. Even though we are really concentrating on our tasks and technical stuff or art, but still workplace is a social network for us. So 5 elements that can help you as a leader to enable more toward state. If you take these into account, it can be easier. So status. So our brain is constantly trying to evaluate what is our relation to other people in the group. So trying to keep everybody on the same level of feeling good of their status in the group is really important. Certainty. Our brain wants to know what's happening in the future. So if we don't have certainty, for example, if your boss sends you a message in Slack and says that, hey, I want to see you in my room or in my office in 5 minutes, what is it that you start thinking? Probably nothing good, even though it could be good. So certainty about how things are going, what's going to happen. Autonomy. We want to have a way to impact what we're going to be doing. So having a chance to do things the way we want, that's really important. Relatedness. So we want to feel that we are inside of a group, so not outside of a group. So feeling of rejection from a group can be really, really harmful. And it can show in many ways. Also fairness, a really basic thing. We want to feel that we have been treated fairly. Then something about psychological safety. How many of you are familiar with the topic? Good. So you probably know then that the teams that perform the best, according to studies, are not the ones with the most competent individuals, but the teams where the psychological safety is the strongest. I think coming back to the leadership development program that we had a couple of years ago, I think what we were able to do there was to really create this psychological safety inside that group, and a lot of it started with that self-awareness and sharing things about yourself, and then we went to authentic conversations and things like that, and it has really been an impactful and important part of many managers' life even, that they have this full group of support and people that they can turn to. And in those sessions that we had, I was really happy to see that people really came with their real problems, and they were really like openly and authentically present there and saying that, hey, being a leader is a hard job. And we were able to practice the hard situation or the challenging situations, and we had a safe environment where to fail, where to try out different approaches, and that was really, really great, and it was really appreciated. So psychological safety is a shared belief that team is safe for interpersonal risk-taking. So definitely linking also to vulnerability. I would say that this is like the collective vulnerability that you see when you see psychological safety in a team. People feel that It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to come into any meeting, any discussion with your full self, with your strengths, with your insecurities, and you are still okay. Then about growth mindset, I think that links also strongly with courage and vulnerability. So a fixed mindset means that intelligence and talent are static and can't be changed, and you have the desire to look smart. Motivation comes from approval. Feedback can be seen as a threat, and focus is on what you're good at, and others' success can be a threat. Then on the other hand, growth mindset is that intelligence and talent can be developed. There's a desire to learn, and feedback is a chance to learn. Motivation comes from mastery, and focus is on where you can develop. And other success, there's a mistake. Other success can actually be inspiration, not a threat, of course. And also study from Google, as they have been quite a lot of, they have done quite a lot of work in studying good leadership, good managers, the best teams. So what they found was that what is something that is in common with the best managers at Google is the growth mindset. And your mindset as a leader has a big impact on the people you lead. So if you have a growth mindset, it enables your people to have that as well. Growth mindset is something that you don't either have or not have. It's a continuum. So everyone, every once in a while, has both of them. But when you are more aware of the different mindsets, you can kind of keep that in mind that, okay, in this situation, how did I perceive this person? Did I feel that, yeah, there's a full load of potential, and how can I help them learn? Or for yourself, is this a place for me to learn, or do I have to kind of try to be as competent as I am at the moment? Yes, then a few things that I would like to highlight at the end of the presentation. I didn't look at the time. Oh, sorry, I've been too enthusiastic about talking. Yes, but kind of like final words. Living and leading according to your values requires courage and continuous effort. So what I would like to invite you to do is to regularly step back and really reflect on your personal values. And how do they show up in your daily life, in your work, in your personal life? Values are not something that you can kind of put aside, and I have to say that personally I feel that it's sometimes very challenging to try to live according to your values. Values can sometimes even be contradicting each other. For example, career, family. That's not always very easy to combine. But I think like reflecting on the values and thinking about what works for you, when do you feel that you have been living according to your values, I think that's something that's very healthy and very good to do. Then encourage people to show up as their full selves and do the same yourself. So as mentioned already, being authentic, being vulnerable, being courageous, I think that's the way to lead a healthy and full life. And to expect that from others, of course, means that you have to show the example yourself. When you show that you are as a leader, you are the one who is setting the tone for the culture. They say that organization is only as mature as the leadership is. So that's why there's a big responsibility in this on you. Take time to have meaningful moments of connection with people. You don't build trust if you don't use the time and to actually have meaningful connections. Be there, listen to them authentically, be there and share something from yourself as well. And true innovation only happens when people have the courage to face uncertainty, take risks, and be emotionally exposed. This is actually Brené Brown's definition of vulnerability. So I think this is something that we need to do more effort. We need to be more courageous to build more on this. I think in many game studios that I've been in contact with or interacted with people, there's a very good amount of courage and vulnerability already. I think when companies start growing, it becomes maybe a bit more challenging. The more responsibility you have, the more difficult it becomes to stay authentic. But it's definitely something that you can still do and that you can practice, but it takes effort. I think that's it for me. I don't know, you might have some questions for me. I also have a question for you. Can I show the question and then you can think about it and then I'll answer a few. So my question for you would be that when you think about yourself as a leader, what do courage and vulnerability look like to you? I would be really interested in hearing this, because I'm sure that there are many points of view, and of course there are not right or wrong answers, but it would be great to share some thoughts around this.
Anyone? Yes, lovely. Here we go.
Okay, so is this working?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for very inspiring speech, and I think that's very essential to my work too. And with my team, I think showing courage and vulnerabilities, maybe saying that something awful happened on the weekend, and as a leader, even you could cry sometimes with your team if you feel so. So showing true emotion is good example, so that we don't have to wear masks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, lovely.
Yeah, thank you. That was really interesting speech. Yeah, I think one point is that, as we discussed, that you have to be able to tell that you don't know something. It would be absurd to claim that I know everything. I don't. So I will have to have the opportunity to tell my team that, seriously, I don't know. I don't know the answer to this question, but I will do everything in my power to find out what the answer is eventually.
Absolutely.
But I find that very important.
And that's really important, because that also allows the team members to express their uncertainties as well. And that's really important, because if people start doing things when they don't know what to do and they don't want to ask questions or they don't want to show up as being insecure, then things start going wrong and we don't even notice mistakes, because people are just like, ooh, I'll just rather stay here and do this and let's see how it goes. So yeah, definitely agree.
Yes.
Hi. I think in our team, what I've tried to do with my team is, which probably ties to both, is that if I feel like I've made a mistake myself, especially towards some of the team members, I try to apologize them in the presence of the rest, especially if the mistake happened in the presence of the rest. So that
I think that's very courageous.
Thanks.
Thank you. And still someone, or yes?
Hello, yeah, thank you for the speech. It's tied a lot of things I've been thinking about myself. I think as a team leader, still quite new in it, I have to be able to accept that it's a work in progress. I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. I realize there's a lot of things I should do that I'm not currently doing. And this is something I read in an article. Be merciful to myself, that I don't have to do it. I'm not failing if I'm not doing everything right now. It's just that I'm learning.
Yes.
I have to have an open mind and realize that I do have still stuff to learn, and that's okay. I can do that.
Yeah, being compassionate to yourself
Yes.
is really, really important. Yeah. And I don't think it's even a relevant goal to try to be perfect. It's a learning journey. So, yeah, that's really good. Thanks.
Still someone who would like to use the opportunity to say something? Yes.
One theme I've been thinking about myself lately is that how can you get proper support for yourself if you don't show yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the key. If you want to develop yourself, you have to be able to show some of the points of vulnerability so that you can get support. Yeah. And one thing that came into my mind last night when I was agonizing about the presentation was that I hate it when there's this, I don't know if it's a culture or way of thinking going around. I don't know, maybe not in the games industry, but I've heard about it in several places that bosses are saying that don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions. But what is, I think one of the key responsibilities of a manager is to help the team member to solve the problems. So I think it's a bit, so yeah, if you're not open about that, hey, I want to develop myself in these things, or I don't know these things, then you will be able to have the support that you need, hopefully, from a good leader.
Okay, there are loads of good questions, and I don't know, do we have time for all of these, but I will pick one or two at least from here, and maybe you can have a look for these and answer in some other channel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so if vulnerability is a state of putting yourself, and if it's perceived as weakness, how do we handle or cope with if there are actual attacks, hits on us, or hits on us? You have.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think it's impossible to live your life without having any hits or setbacks. And I think, at least for me personally, those have been the biggest learning experiences, personally, about myself as a person. So they have really helped me grow my self-awareness. So yeah, those things happen as well, but I think they can be taken, of course, at the time it feels terrible and you're like, why is this happening to me, and I want to die, but after a while, when reflecting on it, you can actually find some really good learnings about yourself that, okay, for example, this is an environment where I don't thrive. I need different kind of environment or different kinds of people. I need to interact with different kinds of people to feel safe and to be able to be creative and collaborative.
Great, thank you. And second one goes for, if, in a small indie, there's seldom a safety net. If your next game does not succeed, then you are out of work. How can you try not to let that affect the risk-taking, psychological safety, and these kind of things?
Yeah, of course you can't. The financial part is, those are the facts, and then you have to deal with them. So with vulnerability, I think it's more about creating the feeling of being in this together. So we have to acknowledge the facts, and sometimes it's not smart to take all kinds of risks. So of course you have to mitigate things as well. But I think finding the balance is something that you have to really work on, and I think that's something that as a team is really important to have as a discussion.
Okay. Teemu, we have one question. Oh, this is so hard. How to be vulnerable in a company where vulnerability is seen as weakness?
That's a good question. I would start off with small things and kind of try to see how that resonates. I think I'm hoping, because I heard that there are many people here who are in a leadership position, I'm hoping that you will kind of think about your personal call to courage and think about what is one thing that you could experiment with tomorrow when you go to work, or if you go to the pocket game, or maybe the day after. But kind of think about those small things where you can actually kind of start spreading that idea and feeling of it's okay to be vulnerable, and it takes courage to be vulnerable.
Okay.
And one thing that I would also want to kind of point out is that the things that I've been speaking about, you probably already noticed that it's not only leadership stuff, it's human stuff. It applies to all of us. So be it a leadership position or a team member, a person in general, I think this is also applicable for your personal lives. So it's a thing that I feel that if we would be more courageous, more vulnerable, we would lead a fuller life. So definitely recommend that. Maybe 2 years ago, my theme for a year was that do things that scare you. And it was scary, but it was also very rewarding. And I tried to do it in all different kinds of levels, also socially and in relationships and things like that. So it was pretty rewarding. I recommend trying it.
Okay, thank you, Mirella. This was really inspiring. It was nice listening to you. Thanks.
And feel free to connect with me afterwards, and it would be great to talk and share ideas.
Perfect. And now is also the time for that, because we're going to have a small break. I believe we'll continue at 5 past, so around 10 minutes, and for the next speaker. So right now, whip onto the toilets, get something to drink, and also you can catch her right here on the side of the stage.